It's really nice to be in front of you. And as I was sitting there and I was mingling with a lot of you yesterday evening, it dawned on me that I'm actually facing a high school audience after my last time in high school. So it's like a good 40 years since I've actually faced a high school audience. So thank you so much for the privilege of being here. Thank you to the students. Thank you to the faculty. Thank you to the organizers. I'm very grateful for this opportunity. Why am I here? I'm here because a journey has brought me to a point where I'm a photographer today. It's not a journey that has come to me straight. It's not a journey that has come to me impulsively. I finished my school and college, and I went into business. I founded a couple of businesses, one business being banking services, another business being real estate. I built homes in a place called Yerkat, Salem, which is not too far from here. But sometime as I got to my early 50s to mid-50s, I'm 57 now, I had this urge to do something that I'm more passionate about, something that would, kind of make me wake up every day and look forward to that day. And while my businesses were good, it wasn't a passion-generating sort of business. All my thoughts then came back to, what do I want to do? And somehow it came back to photography, because that is something that I have enjoyed all my life. Wherever I've gone, I've carried a camera with me from the time I was in school, college. And I wanted to do that. And I frankly didn't know how to go about doing that, because as you get older, I think you also get into your comfort zones and you don't want to explore new avenues because you're happy where you are. So I needed to get myself out of that comfort zone. And I think that's where a strong support system definitely helps. And I think I want to acknowledge my support system that brought me to the field of photography, because if it wasn't for their encouragement, I wouldn't have dabbled in something like photography or something creative on those lines. I'm going to start with, that's my wife, Maria. She's been the pillar of my strength and everything I do for over 30 years now. That photo that you see of her on the right, that portrait of hers, in many ways, is the portrait that kind of kick-started my journey as a portrait photographer. So, some of you may remember that bizarre and surreal time in our lives called COVID-19. During that time, we were all in lockdown, we were all shut in our houses, and there was this friend of ours who was putting the seeds of founding a company called Amazing Grays, which was into hair care products for silver and gray-haired people. So, everything was in lockdown. He was Bangalore-based. He couldn't put an agency together. So he requested Maria to be the model for this particular campaign that he was doing. Maria, I must tell you, hates to be in front of the camera. In fact, she's probably watching it live now and she doesn't know that she's in this presentation. She's probably watching it now and saying, just wait till you get back home. You are in so much trouble, so. Then he called me and he told me, listen, you've been wanting to do photography for quite some time. Why don't you shoot Maria? Since you both live under the same roof, why don't you shoot your wife and send us the campaign and we'll try and run it. I shot the campaign. We almost didn't live under the same roof after that, because it was a turbulent campaign, a photo shoot, but it went well. The campaign went well. And this is the photograph that kind of kickstarted. So not only has she been a pillar of strength for me, but this is also the portrait that kind of started the journey for me. My daughter Ananya, she lives in Amsterdam. When I wanted to start this, I'm going to tell you these things simply because maybe there is something in this that you might connect with. She had only one thing to tell me. She told me that it's okay to do what you want to do at 25, at 55, rather than not do it at all. And I thought that kind of struck a strong chord with me. My son Ankit is an architect based in Goa, where Mr. Subodh comes from. And he's the person who put me onto Instagram. I was totally clueless about Instagram, and I didn't know how to put myself out there. And he put me on Instagram. In fact, he put the first post out on Instagram. And he also gave me a bit of advice that has stuck with me. And he said, as a creative person, your only job is to put yourself out there. After that, what follows is not yours, because it is subjective. People are going to like it, people are not going to like it, and that's okay. Just put yourself out there. And I think that's important in all walks of life, that you need to put yourself out there. This is Jane. Jane is a model and an accomplished photographer herself. I met Jane during a photo shoot that I was doing, and a wonderful human being. And she and me, while we were having our conversations, she had this dream and this vision to start a creative studio. She already had the template, everything in place, and we wanted to start a photography studio. And during our conversations together, we said, why not we do it together? And sometime last year, the studio was founded. And if someone would ask me 3.5 years back, would you have a career in photography? Would you have a studio of your own? When I was 54 years old, I'd have said it's just wishful thinking. But it's real, it's happened, it's here. So the point being, it's never too late to pursue your dreams or your passions. The question is, just do it. And I think I've been fortunate, I was able to do it, and I was able to get here. Now, as a photographer, what are the kind of photographies that inspire me? What are the kind of mediums of photography that I find that interconnects and gives me value in the other occupations that I do? Portrait photography being one of them. I'll just show you a small selection of some portraits, some travel portraits. Now, portrait photography is not just about me standing or sitting in front of someone and saying, let me take your picture. It requires a fair level of communication. If you want a person who's sitting in front of you to bear their soul through their eyes and that expression, you have to first make them comfortable. So which means it definitely generates a certain amount of communication skills. You need that in order to get that person to be comfortable. And that communication skill is also something that is so important in all walks of life because, for example, how do you solve problems? Most problems can be solved by good communication. Most solutions can be found by good communication. Therefore, portrait photography teaches you good communication. The other thing that portrait photography, particularly travel and street portrait photography does is you get over the fear of rejection because even today, after taking a fair amount of street portraits, I am actually nervous when I go up to somebody and say, can I take your portrait? Because I know more often than not, they're actually going to say no. And for reasons that are completely legit. Some are shy, some don't want to stand in front of the camera, some are, where are you going to publish these photos? And that's perfectly fine. But I think that is also very important in life in the sense that you must have the courage to put yourself out there and get over the fear of failure. It's okay. I mean, it's okay if you fail once in a while. But let's say tomorrow you're starting an enterprise and you need to go to a VC for funding. If you have the fear of failure, you're never going to take that step. So I think the important thing is do not have the fear of failure. Just go out there and do it. So portrait photography teaches you that, especially travel and street photography teaches you communication, teaches you to get over your fear of failure. This particular portrait, the communication was a bit different. I was in Sri Lanka in a railway station. We were waiting for a train to come, my wife and me, and maybe about 3 or 4 platforms away on a train. She was on that train, and I was just panning my camera, looking for some candidates, and she caught the lens. She caught the lens in the frame, and almost instinctively she started posing. It was absolutely beautiful the way she just connected with the camera. So here there was a communication between the subject, me, through a medium called the camera, which is, for example, what the modern gen does. A lot of the communication happens through your digital portals. I won't say this was a greater connection, but it was nice. So I don't know who she is. I don't know where she comes from. But if she happens to go and get access to this TEDx and she sees herself on this, please get in touch with me and I'll share these photos with you. The other aspect of photography that I really like is travel photography. So one of my businesses is we build buildings, architecture. We design buildings. And I find that nature and man-made monuments always draw you and give you design clues, which you can then use in the way that you implement in your structures that you build. I put together a small curation of photographs which are not architecture-based, but just tell you how it can also be interpreted as architecture. For all of these pictures, whenever I take a picture, I always sometimes see a slightly deeper meaning to it. On these pictures, you'll find that I've given that caption. That is for you to mull over. I'm not going to elaborate on that. That is for you to take your own take out of that. What I'm going to tell you is how I see this as a design. How does it help me in design? Now, this particular picture is a study in contrast. The building is a building in Chennai. It is an absolutely jet black building, black and gray stone. It was an overcast day, and you had these two girls who walked with these really bright umbrellas. It was an absolute perfect study in contrast for me. This is something that we look when we build houses. How do we bring contrast to a house? They are not two people looking out for Wi-Fi signals at the end of the world. This is actually a study in minimalism. This is the White Ran of Kutch in Gujarat, an absolutely beautiful place. And it just shows you how in just sheer simple minimalism, it is still so beautiful. You see this, for example, in Scandinavian architecture, where you see large open spaces and just a couple of elements there to give you that feeling of space. And that's what nature has done here. Very few elements, and it's still such a beautiful thing to visualize. Perspectives. There's an ancient stepwell in Jodhpur. Just look at how those ancient artisans have drawn lines, and they've drawn you into this stepwell by sheer their perspective. What I have done by placing both of them there is made a three-dimensional image out of a two-dimensional object. But it's just the way that the artisans of the old days have created this perspective for us. Shadows. Shadows is such an important part of architecture, because without shadows, you cannot create light. This was at an ancient site in Hampi. We were standing on an elevated platform. This is my family and a friend's family. And we were looking down, and it created these shadows. And it just shows how much drama shadows can cause in an image and in visuals. So I have a small story to say. I'm not sure if the third person on the right, you can see a small kid there. That kid traveled with us to Hampi. I just want the audience to know that kid is here in this audience, and she's a lot bigger now. I'm not going to say who she is, but she's here in this audience. Light. This was taken at a temple in Chennai. The beauty of light. As architects, we're always looking to see how can we bring light into a subject, because light is magic. We need light. Everything around our lives revolve around light. We chase the sun. We want to be out in the sun. It energizes us. So that is something that we as architects and construction people look at. How do we bring light in? And this picture typically gives us the magic of light. Hues. This is something, again, that is important for us in our design elements. We're always wondering, how do we create a color palette or a color template? Here, nature is showing us, you know what, you don't need too much. Sometimes just simple hues create such beautiful color palettes that you can use in your design elements. Symmetry. This is taken at the Patrika Gate in Jaipur. It's a beautiful study of symmetry, not just in the way the columns are designed, it's also in the way the art has been made, and everything forms a perfect symmetry in the object. And this is also something that's very important in our architectural design when we design buildings. We spoke about subtle colors like hues. Here's the use of bold colors. And you can see how there is just a whole explosion of colors, and yet somehow it works. To the kids here, please don't do what this girl is doing. Don't go around peering into other people's windows. Not advisable at all. And this was also taken at actually a place in Chennai. And it was just a beautiful explosion of colors. This, in architectural terminology, we call visual hierarchy. So, for example, this auditorium itself, I am standing here and you're down, and it's creating a visual hierarchy. This is something that we do in architecture. So that the waterfall being the primary subject and the boy being the secondary subject creates that, this illusion of visual hierarchy, which we use a lot in architecture. Of course, I need to add that all of these pictures are taken by me. I've curated these pictures to give you how it connects with another business of mine, which is architecture, how when I travel, I get ideas that I can use. The last picture here is not about architecture. That was a beautiful building in Bali, but it's not about architecture. This is something that I want to sign off my presentation with. As all of you are on the cusp of, getting out of your school, going to college, and pursuing your lives, this is the only place where I'm going to stick to what the caption says. I think it's important that some of us follow light, some of us follow our shadows. But the important thing is for you all to carry your music with you. When you carry your music with you, I don't literally mean music. It could be whatever medium that interests you. It could be art. It could be, I'll talk about the esteemed speakers, before me. It could be art. It could be dance. It could be the field of insurance. It could be, sustainable forms of practice. Carry that music with you, and that is very important. If you do that, you're bound to succeed. Parting note, I just want to tell you all, I know this, at this point in time, you'll have your fears on what the life holds for you, how do you go about it, and all that is fine. But just remember this, the future looks bright. Thank you so much.